Hey YouTube, how you doing? Kevin here coming at you with another video. Okay, I have a lot of people asking, what is the difference between 2 and 4 strokes? How come 2 strokes don't have valves? What is a rotary valve? Because all my dirt bikes I've ever owned had reed valves. Okay, what's the difference between, I want to buy a dirt bike, but I don't know if I should buy a 4-stroke or a 2-stroke. So can you help me with this? Absolutely. I'm going to help you guys, and I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about each, and we can go from there. Some stuff you may have to use your imagination when I tell you to, and you'll understand. Alright, we're going to start off with the 4-stroke engine because that is the basic, simplest engine to explain, just because it's been around for over 100 years. Alright, so we're going to go right back onto this one right here. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so this is the motor right here you're going to have to use your imagination on. Let's see here. Boop, 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 boop. There we go. Alright, so we're going to start at the top. This is the engine that came off my chipper shredder, so it has a broken connecting rod. So the piston does not go up and down. So that's the part you're going to have to use your imagination when I tell you to. Right now, the piston is, we're going to pretend the piston is all the way at the top. Okay? So the piston's at the top, both valves are closed, and we're going to stop the stroke. Okay, here is your intake port, here is your exhaust port. The air and fuel mixture going in is 14:7 to 1 air fuel ratio. Okay, so here's where your carburetor would be mounted. Alright, so right now the crank, this is the flywheel right here. You're getting ready to turn your starter, it starts to spin the flywheel. As it's spinning, the piston is starting to go down. It's starting very slowly. Well, we're doing a slow motion, but the piston moves down as the intake valve opens. As the piston moves downward, it is creating a vacuum. It is sucking the fuel and air mixture from the carburetor coming through, going through the valve and into the combustion chamber. This area right here. So the piston's going down, and right now at this point the valve is starting to close because it's at the bottom. Okay, now both valves are closed, and the piston is starting to move upward. So picture the piston moving upward. The piston is moving all the way up to the top, compressing the air and fuel into a tight spot called a combustion chamber. It's a little wet right here. This is the combustion area right here. Okay, it sits on top of the motor, and that's the combustion chamber right there. So it's compressing it and compressing it, and then at that point, when it gets just before the top, I think it's like 8 degrees on this particular motor, the spark plug ignites, but the momentum of the flywheel carries it past the 8 degrees as it fires, and the piston starts to move. It moves all the way down to the bottom of the stroke. Okay, it drives it. It's like bang, punches it, goes straight down. That's called the power stroke. So far we completed the intake stroke, the compression stroke, and now when the spark plug fires, that's the power stroke. That's the part that drives the engine. That's where all the power is made, in the power stroke. Just from a spark that ignites the fuel and air combination in the combustion chamber, driving the piston down. Now the flywheel spins really, really fast and starts to go upward. Okay, it drove it down, but it was so powerful when it spun the crankshaft, it started to move it upward. As it moves upward, the exhaust valve opens, and now the piston is moving up. Now remember how it was compressing before when it had the fuel and air mixture in there? Now it's compressing the air and the exhaust at the top of the cylinder. Now it's pushing it, forcing it through the exhaust valve and out your tailpipe. And now it starts all over again. Now the piston's moving downward, sucked in the air and fuel. Bang! Compression, drove it down. Now it's going to push the exhaust out, and boom. That's your 4 strokes. Intake, compression, power, exhaust. And that's literally how they work. Okay? So the piston moves down for the intake as the valve moves open. Both valves close. All this is done by the camshaft, by the way. The fuel and air are compressed on the compression stroke. Bang! The spark plug fires, driving the piston down. That's the power stroke. As the piston moves back up, it pushes the unburnt fuel out the tailpipe, and that's called the exhaust stroke. Okay? Real simple. Now, what are the benefits to a 4-stroke engine? Let's talk about some of the benefits to a 4-stroke engine. One, the engine oil is in a crankcase and it's easy to change. You pull the plug and you can change it. Some engines even have filters. This happens to be a 5 horsepower Briggs lawnmower engine with no oil filter, but you would just simply change the oil. It's that simple. And change the spark plug as needed, air filter, and that sort of thing. Alright? And you can see the valves moving right in there. See if I can show you that. The valve springs right there. The can is pushing up on those. It's got a lot of, it's easier to maintain, if you will. Okay? These very rarely see a lean burn hole condition. Very rarely. They run a lot cooler. They're a slower engine. They're not as fast. For instance, this engine's only capable of 3,600 RPM, where that thing's like 7,000 to 9,000 RPM. Okay? This takes 4 strokes to complete one whole cycle. This thing can do it in 2. Okay? So now, one of the things with this is this, if you blew a crankshaft seal on this motor, it's just going to leak oil. Where if you blow a crankshaft seal on that one, it's going to create a lean condition and burn a hole in your piston. But this engine's a lot lighter than this engine. Now let's do this, okay? Let me show you guys this. This is a Kawasaki KE100 engine. This is a Briggs & Stratton 5 horsepower engine, okay? Now, that's 11 horsepower, that's a 5 horsepower. This has a transmission built into it. This engine does not. So, when you buy a 2-stroke, you're getting a lighter engine, which power to weight ratio, the power goes up, the weight goes down. Where you buy a 4-stroke, now you have a few other problems, okay? One, these engines right here can't run as fast as a 2-stroke. 2, they often have less torque. Torque is what moves the bike. You can have an engine with high horsepower, but if it's got low torque, it ain't nothing. So, this has more mechanical moving parts than a 2-stroke. For instance, both a 2 and 4-stroke have a crankshaft. Both 2 and 4-strokes have a flywheel. Both 2 and 4-strokes have a piston. Both 2 and 4-strokes have a connecting rod. Only the 4-stroke has cam, lifters, valve spring keepers, valves. See, that's on a 4-stroke, so it's got a lot of mechanical parts. Now, this is called an L-head. Okay, it's called an L-head because the valves are offset over here. Dirt bikes today aren't set up like that. They're overhead valves, and they go, they're right here, the intake and exhaust. Some 4-strokes even have 4 valves, 2 on each side. 2 for the exhaust, 2 for the intake. Alright? Which give you more horsepower. I'll give them that. They give you more power, more airflow through the motor. But here's the problem. When you get into high RPMs, the cam is now punching the springs and it creates valve float, and a piston could whack it. So you have a better chance of mechanical failure at high RPM with a 4-stroke than you do a 2-stroke. Okay? So let's go over to the 2-stroke. Now, a 2-stroke, unlike a 4-stroke, is completely different. Alright? Completely and utterly different. I'm already expanded all the way up, I think. Here we go. Let me try focusing in a little better spot. Okay. So, from right here, alright, I got you somewhat where I want you. I'm actually going to use this head right here and cram it underneath. See if that helps the cause. And we'll oh, look at that. Almost where I wanted you. Not quite. Hold on. Nope. I guess it's better with it on the bottom there. All right. Yep, we'll do that. Okay, so a two-stroke is the least efficient one. A two-stroke creates bad emissions, unlike a four-stroke is a lot cleaner. A two-stroke is really the benefits to a two-stroke is it's lighter and has less mechanical parts, and is definitely faster than a four-stroke. So let's get into some of how this works. Now, on the four-stroke, the piston on the top, when it moves downward, it actually sucks in air and fuel. This works backwards. This one, all the work is done at the bottom of the piston. Okay? So let me explain to you what I mean by that. Okay. Here is the intake right here. You really can't see into... Oh, yeah, you can. Let's see if I can get you set up where you can do this better without moving you around. Hold on. Bear with me. No bears. There we go. Alright. Can you guys see in there, right? No? That's your rotary valve right there. See right there where it's open? Okay. So, this starts off with it closed. I'm trying to see if you can see it. So anyway, as the rotary valve opens, see right there where it just started to open? Okay. The piston is moving upward, closing off all the ports. It's closing up all the ports and is moving to the top of the cylinder. Okay, right now, this rotary valve, here's the intake right here. This is where your carburetor would mount. This piece right here, this circle is that circle. Okay, where your thing moves. So right now, the rotary valve is opened for the duration of the time. As the piston moving forward, it's sucking in all the air and fuel that it can, and then blocking it. Okay, now it shuts off. Okay, so when you go down here, it's shut off right there. Okay, it's sucked in all the fuel and air. Okay, see how it's off? Now it's moving downward. As the cylinder moves downward, it's forcing all the fuel around the crankshaft. Okay, the fuel and air, the fuel mixture with the oil and the air is now circulating around the crankshaft. The two-stroke oil is lubricating the bearings, and it is becoming pressurized. It can't go back out the intake because the valve is closed. So now what's happening is it's pushing. As the further the piston moves down, the more pressure is built up in the crankcase, and it's forcing the air and fuel up these transfer ports. And those transfer ports are right here in the cylinder. Okay? Now the piston's all the way down, right there. It's fully down. Let's see if you can see this. Now the air and fuel is being forced into the combustion chamber right here. It's being forced. Some of it is going out the exhaust. That's where it becomes inefficient. Okay, right there, see the exhaust port? So you got your transfer ports open and your exhaust port open at the same time. So this happens like wicked fast, like a millisecond, but some of your unburnt fuel has just escaped out your exhaust and is into your exhaust. And now it's going to move back up. It's going to compress the fuel and air, what's left up in here, into a combustion chamber. Looks like this, right there. The magneto is going to tell the coil to fire. It's going to spark and detonate, and this cycle is going to happen all over again. Now the piston is moving downward. Okay, now look who came to join us. The exhaust stroke. The exhaust right there is going, now it's escaping. It's happening so fast, it's escaping out there and coming out, and then it happens all over again. It already went through its intake. This thing does 2 strokes at the same time, okay? So after the power stroke, it forces the piston down, okay, and it's getting ready. It did fire and exhaust, Now it's doing the intake and compression stroke. Okay, so it's doing two things at the same time. It's letting the exhaust out. The intake ports are still closed. Right now it's forcing the air and fuel into the combustion chamber. Compression, fire, exhaust, and intake all at the same time. So compression and fire, compression and exhaust are on one stroke, and the intake and compression are on another. And that's how it does. It does two strokes at the same time and fires on the second. And that is a two-stroke engine. That's how it works. Now, you have a lot of different variables. Okay, some engines are set up completely different. This one's a rotary valve where the intake is down bottom here. But then you have some engines that use reed valves like these. Normally they're not down bottom here. Normally they're right on the intake. But you have some cylinders where the intake is right on the back of the jug. What is better and what is the benefits? Alright, well, they kind of both are awesome, and they both kind of also suck. Because, like I said, they're very inefficient. Reed valves do go bad. Basically, the reed valves, you can get these made out of composite material. You can get them made out of plastics. You can get them made out of steel. As long as they seal good, that's what really matters. As far as the rotary valve, I've also seen these things made out of composite material. You can modify these, cut them, and make a little bit of a longer intake, or change the the shape of them. Like at the end, kind of like some people put like a little groove there, just for that little extra kick. I mean, there's all kinds of different things, but you got to use the wheel on there, the what do you call it, degree wheel, and figure out where it's precisely what time it's opening, precisely what time it's closed, and what modification and what would do you benefit. So that is pretty much what I got for you guys right now. This is just a little bit of an insight onto how these are done and what the benefits are to a 4-stroke, because a lot of people are asking, should I buy a 4-stroke dirt bike? I mean, they're all the newer bikes are 4-strokes because of emissions. The older ones were the 2-strokes, but these things had a lot more torque. I mean, the weight, the sound, you can't beat the sound. They're putting stupid mufflers on 4-strokes trying to get better sound out of them. I don't even have a 4-stroke motorcycle, dirt bike, so I had to use a lawnmower engine, because that's what they are to me, is a lawnmower engine. But some people, like their 4-strokes, and that's cool. Honda makes a good 4-stroke. Kawasaki they all make a good one. How can you get away from valve float? If you're going to build a performance dirt bike, it is a must. If you're porting and you're building a performance dirt bike, you need to get heavier duty valve springs, stronger valve springs that can prevent the valve float on the high RPM. You can take a 4-stroke engine and make it high performance as all hell, but realistically, weight and less mechanical parts is going to be the 2-stroke. So just something to keep in mind when you're doing these type of things, because there's so many variables. But I just wanted to give you guys how the strokes work on a 2-stroke and a 4-stroke. What are the benefits? Really, less moving parts, a faster engine, and an awesome sound. Not so great on the sound, but easier to work on. It does have more moving parts, but the maintenance is a little bit easier too. Just changing the oil, and then you're not using 2-stroke stuff. So basically, guys, every time you fill your tank with 2-stroke oil, you are changing your oil. Every oil change, every time you put fuel in it. So if you have a bike like this right here that's got a transmission, okay, if you have a transmission, keep in mind the transmission and the engine parts are completely separate. They are not the same. The crankshaft is completely sealed differently from your transmission, and that's a fact. So I want to just touch base with you guys on all of that. In fact, I'm gonna go and get the hold on one second and get this thing set up here. Give me a minute. I'm going to be right back. I'm going to go grab one more thing I wanted to show you guys. And then we'll go from there. So I'll be right back. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I forgot to bring this out. You guys have seen this in my last video. I wanted to show it to you again. The crankcase for the two-stroke engine is completely sealed all the way around. Okay? The transmission is over here. So there's a drain plug here to drain your oil out of your transmission. This oil does not lubricate the crankshaft like it does on the four-strokes. Now on a four-stroke, when you drain the oil, you're draining it out of both. There is no wall here. It's all opened up. So the crankcase and the transmission are all one piece. It's all opened right up. There's no special gear oil for the transmission. It's all, you change the oil, you change everything. So keep that in mind when you're doing these, because there's a lot of variables and a lot of things you should do. So you should always read your owner's manual and find out where your plugs are for your bike, what you have for specifications on your oils. That all makes a big difference. And it doesn't really matter what you use, you know, what you're running, particularly running for oil or whatever you like. Just make sure it meets the specifications of the motor. Because certain thrust washers, like this one right here, has a brass bushing. Not all bikes have brass bushings. So the oil specification for this one is 10W40. But it has a GL rating. So you got to make sure you're meeting those ratings, because if not, you're going to wear out that brass bushing. Or it might take out one of these bearings, the ball bearings. You got to make sure you get what you get and make sure you're doing it properly. That was pretty much it for that. Where the four-stroke, you're changing the whole thing. Yep, we'll get to that. Four-stroke dirt bike engines normally have oil filters, where these do not. So you drain it, you put it back in. If you had one sitting around and it looked like there was some crud in it, you could flush them out. But this right here on the KE 100s is where you would check it, right in there. And the overall look of the engine will look the same. Just that it would have a valve cover. I'll show you on my four-wheeler what a valve cover looks like. And I do these videos and people are like, everybody should know what a valve cover looks like. Alright, yep. But not everybody does. And my purpose of these videos is to help people who don't know. So please keep that in mind when you're watching my videos. That these are basic videos. These videos are not for those who have been doing it for 100,000 years and know everything about everything. These are just basic videos I'm putting together to show the average person what they're looking at, because a lot of people don't know. This is a four-stroke engine right here. Sorry about the sunlight. See if I can block it with my body here. And it's got a valve cover right here. This is a breather. There's nothing going through this hose but air. As the engine builds up, it builds up gases and they come out through this way, through the valve cover. That's a valve cover. And underneath this is where the cam and the valves are. But the overall, look of it is basically the same. You got your clutch on one side, your cylinders right here where your piston would be, your spark plugs on the other side. You got your intake up there, your exhaust down bottom, and that's for your coolant, because this is liquid cooled. This is my Can-Am. So actually, I'm going to show you a lawnmower engine with a valve cover. It's just basically a sheet metal or aluminum cover. Right here. That's it. This one says OHV for overhead valves, OHC for overhead cam. And that's pretty much the basics of it. I can show you better on my Honda over here. I think. Well, maybe not. This is what it looks like right here. You see the round circle right there. That's got a cam in it. Overhead cam. That's a decompression. But yep. So that's pretty much the basics of it. You know. If you guys have any questions on that, a lot of these newer motors are coming through with valve covers with the 4-stroke overhead valves. Overhead valve engines run cooler than the old original L heads, like I showed you in the video. But I just used the L head to show you. You can actually see the valves move a little better, you know. So if you look on this one right here, you see the spark plug down there, where it says NGK upside down. So carburetor goes into the intake, just like on a 2-stroke, just that this is a 4-stroke. And has 4 strokes instead of 2. So 2 strokes get a lot of their horsepower and torque by their exhaust. And the reason for that, here's the other reason why, is a good tuned exhaust pipe is good on a 2-stroke and will not help a 4-stroke. Alright, so let's talk about the exhaust. Okay. Well, on your exhaust, you have, on these ones right here, everything's in-house. So you have, once it fires, all the unburnt fuel is sent out the exhaust pipe, out the exhaust through that valve. Okay, it comes out here. The intake valve is completely closed, and no fuel, no exhaust is going to come back through the carburetor. All right, until it starts again. Then the intake starts, the piston moves down, compresses, fires, and blows the exhaust out. Here's the problem with a 2-stroke, right here, guys. On a 2-stroke, your intake ports, go all the way down, your intake ports are opened, at the same time your exhaust port is open. So, what the heck? Now you just took the piston, you drove the piston down, you're forcing the fuel and air through the transfer ports, and now some of it's leaking out your exhaust. So now what happens? I just lost some of my air and fuel charge. I don't want to lose some of my air and fuel charge because I need to burn that to make this engine more efficient, make it more power. Well, that's where this comes in, guys. This right here. This is called an expansion chamber. Okay, these are where your power is at. Because what these are doing is now you get some of your unburnt fuel and air mix coming that are in here. Okay, you already have the stroke ahead of it. So basically, the unburnt fuel is expanding. You know, the burnt fuel is expanding, coming up and expanding, going into the small pipe. But before it can do that, it's getting forced back down through. Now, what it's doing is it's kind of causing like a hiccup, if you will. Boop, boop. Hiccup, kind of like tapping the unburnt fuel gases back into the engine. Mind you, it's a fine mist that you're losing. Okay, it's not like liquid and oxygen. It's a mist. It's like a how would I put it? It's like a spray, if you will. Like picture like a spray, like a fine mist. Those gases come up through here, the unburnt fuel. The unburnt fuel is now mixing with the burnt fuel, the burnt exhaust, going out the tailpipe. That expansion chamber, how it's fat and then goes into skinny, it creates a restriction, which kind of like hiccups and knocks it back in there. And this happens like in a microsecond. And now, so you have some of your exhaust, your unburnt exhaust gases. This is the theory behind it, blowing back into the engine, and then by that time it'll move past the exhaust port and compress, and then you get your charge of fuel back, and then pop. You know, then the spark plug will pop it, and then it'll light it off. So that's the idea behind the expansion chamber, where 4-strokes don't have to worry about anything like that. 4-strokes, it's once the exhaust is opened, the exhaust comes out, and then it's on to the races. Now it's on to the next one. The intake valve piston's moving down, compresses. That's the difference. So hopefully this cleared up a lot of things for you. If you guys have any questions about anything, by all means, please ask. But I know a lot of people are trying to figure out, should I buy a new dirt bike? You know, what should I do? The two strokes were fun because, well, these ones right here are automatic mix. You don't have to mix the fuel and air together on them. This is a 20-to-1 air fuel mixture where you don't have to worry about any of that type of stuff with that. See, this one right here, if you don't mix the air, if you don't mix the oil and the fuel together, you're gonna burn your engine out. With that one right there, you just run straight gas in all the time anyway. The only thing you gotta care about is if your oil level's full. So, there's a couple of pros and cons for you. You can figure out what's best and whatever works best for you. I personally like my 2-strokes. I think they're awesome and they sound badass. However, 4-strokes, they're a lot quieter, more efficient, and they run a lot longer. They do seem to last a lot longer, and they go a lot longer in between rebuilds. So you can get definitely more out of them. This engine right here was subject to overspeed and blew a hole in it. When you overspeed one of these, you kind of start to overheat it and wear out the cylinder. This is a Nicosal. You can see that. You know, this is just extra stuff. Some stuff like this DS80 cylinder has a steel sleeve. This is Nicosal coated, keeping it lightweight, easy to heat transfer. So really, just it depends on what you guys are looking for, looking to get out of your bike, and you know, that's basic. That's the basics on how they work, the differences, and how they work. So thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe. I saw today 119 subscribers, guys. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I appreciate doing these videos. Later on this week, I have a brake video on how to do brakes on the KE100 and how to check them and how they should be set up. A lot of people get the setup on these brakes wrong, and what it causes is premature wear on the brakes. And there's a lot going into the brakes, guys, and I want to really hit that pretty hard. We had a storm come through here. I live in New England, New Hampshire. Look how fast this water's running. We had a storm last night that was absolutely wicked. Knocked out power. My neighbor's on a generator right now. Look at the water level on this lamprey. Now, if you guys have watched my videos from before, you guys would know the water is not normally this high. This lamprey is high. A lot of water came through. A lot. A lot of wind took down power lines. The water has a fast current, and I mean it's right up over the stairs. Look at that, huh? It's crazy. Well, anyway, I wanted to say thank you guys for your subscriptions. For those of you who have not subscribed but still watch the videos, thank you very much. Ladies, you're always welcome to chime in. In this channel, we do not discriminate, and we hope that this will inspire you as well to do these, to build these bikes and to learn how to ride and enjoy them. Don't be afraid to take it apart. Use your cameras on your cell phones. Take pictures. Do the old pizza box. Draw out a picture of it. Poke holes in it. Put your screws back in there, and you will not have to worry about how you put it back together again. And now that we have Google, what would the world do without Google, huh? And we also have YouTube. And you're more than welcome to subscribe to my channels. I have a lot of women who have been watching it recently, and I just want to say thank you. I appreciate that, and welcome. And I do all kinds of crazy videos. I just pulled the motor. I'll show you my junk truck. Pulled the 350 out of it. This thing is junk. It had the sides. They made sheet metal sides. This is the bar right here for my my sliding camper. So I got a lot of stuff. This truck here is on its way to the junkyard. Look at the rot, guys. Holy GM. Holy rusted metal Batman. Pull the side. This door was completely covered over. There was no tank on this side. This is I thought it was a 78. It actually turns out to be a 1976. But it had the 350 in it, which I pulled out. Let's see if you can see all that. But, and this side right here wasn't much prettier. You would not believe the rot underneath this truck. That's the hole right there they cut out for the fuel filler neck. Swiss cheese, guys, Swiss cheese. Good old Chevrolet. They even say that on it. Oh, it's supposed to be Chevrolet. But it had a nice trail hitch on it for campers with the load bars. But yeah, no, back on to what I was saying. Thank you guys again for watching. Please subscribe. Please share my page. Please like my channel. And thank you guys once again. We're 119 and counting. So very cool. Very cool. And thank you very much. Have a great day.